So it was time to do the butt strap. And as soon as my client put her legs up, she farted on me. She goes, oop. We both just laughed it off, honestly. And she's a very loyal client of mine, but I just thought about that one time. Funny. A few weeks later, the side chick books a wax appointment with me. And of course, I service her. She's trying to talk to me about the whole situation, but I don't say a thing. One thing about me is I will never give out names. I will never talk about your situation to other clients, especially if they know you. Right now, I'm telling you the story, but you don't know who it is. Anyways, the wife finds out about it because the side chick tags me on Facebook. She sends me a very long message, basically firing me as her waxer, telling me that she can no longer get services by me because she doesn't want to share yet another person with her enemy. I said, okay, girl, have a great life. It's been 5 years since this happened, and he ended up leaving both of them for a new chick and has 2 kids with that new chick. Never fight for a man.
When I was in my 20s, I froze 10 eggs. When my husband and I were ready to have kids, I ended up getting pregnant naturally. I'm currently 35 and had my baby a year ago. We do want 2 more children, so we will likely use a few of the eggs. My sister, who is 30, has a 12-year-old daughter and has recently gotten married. Even though she was young, my sister's first pregnancy was a struggle. She's been told that she will probably not be able to have another baby. So her and her husband asked me if they can have 1 or 2 of my stored eggs. I instantly told her no, I would feel really weird about it. I then told her if she paid me a substantial amount of money, I would let her have 2 eggs. I gave her a price of $5,000. She's really torn up and blaming me for not being able to enjoy sharing a child with her husband. I told her she can find a donor egg somewhere else, but she said she wants a baby related by blood. If she can't afford $5,000 for the egg, she can't afford another baby. She has now gone to whine to any family member that will listen. My parents have been begging me to help my sister start a family. They said if her husband decides to leave her because he wants kids, it'll be my fault. Other people have been calling me to shame me for not giving her the eggs. I feel for my sister, but these are my eggs. Once when I was around 6 or 7, my mom brought home some delicious chocolate and gave some to me. I loved the stuff and stole the bar that she had saved for my stepdad. He comes home and my mom can't find the chocolate. She asked me what happened to it. I blamed the dog Duncan, knowing that he often eats things off the counter. I didn't know at the time that chocolate was toxic for dogs. My mom goes terribly pale and rushes Duncan to the vet, and he has to throw up. I felt terrible about this, and I thought it was because he stole the chocolate and was some form of punishment. So the next day she brings home more chocolate, and nobody told me that it was for Duncan's own good that he was taken to the vet. So feeling bad for doing this to Duncan, I gave him my chocolate, this time thinking he deserved it after taking one for the team. Later that night, my mom asked me how the chocolate was, and this time I decided to tell the full truth and explain that I gave the chocolate to Duncan this time as I felt bad for getting him in trouble yesterday. So after another late night trip to the vet, I was finally told that chocolate is toxic for dogs. Duncan was fine in the end. Now the twist is that the very expensive vet trips cost a lot of money, which prompted my mom to take a look at our expenses. That's how she found out our stepdad was hiding an affair and then got a divorce.
Story time about the girl who was absolutely obsessed with me in high school. So it was my junior year in high school, and I'm just going to tell you guys the first story of how I knew that she was absolutely obsessed with me and wanted to be me. Well, I had been dating this guy for like a month, and I sent him nudes. Well, my nudes got spread around the school, and everybody knew they were mine until this one girl, and we're going to call her Addie, started saying that they were hers. I guess one of my friends was talking about it in class and they were like, OMG, did you hear that her nudes got leaked? AKA mine. And Addie was sitting at the same table and she said, no, those are my nudes. And at first I thought this girl was just trying to be nice. I was like, oh, well, that's nice of her, you know. Like maybe she's just trying to say that so that way nobody will bully me, I guess. Well, the one day I texted her about it. And I was like, hey, like, you don't have to do that. It's fine. I'll take responsibility for it. I did it. And she was like, what are you talking about? Those are my nudes. Like for part 2. Story time. My parents found out that I was dating a white boy. So a little background information. My parents are super strict, especially my dad. And on top of that, my dad thought that races should not mix. One of his sayings was, you don't see a blue jay fucking a pigeon. AKA, white people and black people should not be together. Sounds fucking stupid. Yeah, I know. Anyways, like I was saying, it was my freshman year of high school and I had been dating this boy for 2 months. And of course he was white. And we had to keep it super low key because if any of my friends found out about it, they would have fucking told my dad. Now when I look back at it, those weren't good friends at all. Anyways, every Friday, my boyfriend and I would go to the movies. And we would go to this theater that was 45 minutes away because nobody that I knew would be there. The only person that knew that I was dating a white boy was my sister. Well, the one day after the movies, I couldn't get a ride home, so I had to get a ride home with him and his family. And as soon as I pulled up, my parents were waiting outside, like for part 2.
Story time of the most dirtiest college roomie ever. By the way, we're calling her Jessie. So I moved in before Jessie and I get settled and decorate. The next day, she comes and throws her bag on the bed, then leaves. I thought it was weird because she didn't even say anything to me. Couple hours later, she comes back and I'm like, hello? And she's like, my bad, and comes giving me a hug. She smelled very bad. She starts unpacking all of her clothes and blankets, but they smelled like mildew. Anyways, a week later, there's this party going on for freshmen, and she goes, but I stay in because I had a migraine. I told her that when she comes back, can she keep the light off? Now it's 2 a.m., and she comes back in very loud, uses the bathroom, then goes to sleep. And now I'm up, so I got up to use the bathroom too. When I sit down on the toilet, I feel something very squishy. It was dark because, like I said, I had a migraine. I get up, turn the light on, and I was sitting in her shit. Part 2 will be up soon.
When my parents decided to get a divorce, I chose to stay with my dad. He was more financially stable, and he also promised to take care of me in the future and help me go through college as long as I graduated. When my grandmother from my mother's side passed away, I received a $30,000 inheritance, and recently my grandfather from my father's side passed away and left me with $50,000 as well. I was also working part-time jobs, and with all of that, I was able to save enough to comfortably put me through my 4 years of school. One day, my mom surprised my stepsister and bought her a brand new car. I was kind of shocked because it was way out of their budget because I knew they were struggling financially. When I looked at my bank account, I saw that a majority of my money was missing. I have my mom on all of my accounts because she wanted to monitor to make sure I don't spend too much money. I never would have thought she would have taken this and paid for my stepsister's car. Her reasoning was that my stepsister had a brighter future and had a bigger possibility of going to an Ivy League school and providing for us in the future. While I, a student who gets mostly B's and C's, would just take over the family business, so I didn't really need it and I could always work in the future.
I have permission from my guest to tell this story. Brace yourself. My guest got with this handsome, very wealthy man. The first year went pretty good. Then after a little while, she started noticing some changes from him. Coming home late, sometimes coming home at 5, 6 in the morning. She noticed her pH balance was off. He started locking his phone. He bought a safe and didn't give her the code for it. This one time she comes and I noticed green discharge, and I was concerned and I told her, hey girl, I really think you should see the doctor because I see some abnormal things going on right now and I cannot diagnose you, but I really think you should go see the doctor.
I was 21 when I found out I was pregnant with twin girls. My sister is 28 and has had 14 miscarriages. She's only had one successful pregnancy, which resulted in my 4-year-old niece. I'm not against having kids, but I definitely wanted to wait until I graduated with my degree and I was married to my significant other. From the start, my mom has been saying I should give my babies to my sister since she deserves them more than I do. And my sister completely agrees. I told them hell no, and my mom calls me a selfish bitch. Throughout my pregnancy, my sister has been begging me to give her at least one baby since I'm having 2. The last time I saw her, we were having lunch and she started babbling about keeping one of my babies, so I paid for my meal and left and haven't seen any of them since then. After I have my girls, I log on to Facebook to hundreds of threatening messages from my family and friends about how I stole my sister's babies and ruined her life. She posted a picture of her nursery that she had for my babies. There's so many posts about how generous I am for going through the pregnancy and giving my sister the babies. She told everyone I was giving her my babies, and she has my pictures of them in the NICU saying how she can't wait to bring them home.
So when I first started waxing, I met this girl and she came in for her very first wax. I laid the strips down and I pulled them. Well, she fainted. I immediately went into a panic. She fainted for like less than a minute, but I was already dialing 911. She woke up and she's like, no, hang up. This is what happens when I'm in pain. And I'm like, girl, you should have told me this before I started the session. She's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, girl. So I'm like, okay, you have to bring someone with you every time you come then because I cannot be responsible for you fainting. So now she always comes with someone. When I first started waxing, my strips were so sloppy, messy, horrible. I am pretty sure I tortured the people that I was waxing. The very first Brazilian I did took me about 2 hours and it was on my childhood best friend. This poor girl suffered for sure. I bruised her, made her bleed excessively, pulled on her skin in ways that shouldn't have been pulled, but I am grateful for her because I learned the biggest lessons on her. Now every time she wants a wax, she gets a hefty discount. So it's up to you when you decide to get a Brazilian wax. If you don't want to go through that unnecessary pain, seek a reputable salon. But if you're okay being someone's guinea pig, kudos to you. We love you for that. Yes, waxing hurts, but with a true professional, it won't be as painful as if you go to an amateur, and that's just the truth. The first time I got a Brazilian wax was a pretty excruciating experience. I assumed because the person that was waxing me was a teacher, I thought she was pretty experienced in Brazilian waxes, but I was terribly wrong. She specialized in facials more than anything. So I undress, bottoms off. As soon as she looks at me, she goes, "Whoa, you're pretty hairy." I was a bit embarrassed and I couldn't believe she said that. Immediately, I felt so uncomfortable. So she preps my skin and applies a strip on my labia, and she looked pretty nervous. My very first Brazilian took me about 2 hours. It was the hardest wax of my life. I remember I was sweating from the back of my neck. I used soft wax on the mons pubis and hard wax on the labia. For the life of me, I could not get that wax off of her. She was such a champ though. I remember my teacher knocking on the door asking if we were okay, and I'm like, yes, we are okay. When I finally finished, I looked at her skin and I was mortified.
Went to my friend's birthday party. We're gonna call her Jazzy. Well, I'm at the party and then Jazzy's dad pulls me aside and he's like, can we talk in private? I was like, yeah, of course, because I thought it was gonna be like a gift for Jazzy. So long story short, he pulls me aside and it gets so motherfucking weird. Like homeboy starts holding my hand and he's like, I always thought you were one of Jazzy's most beautiful friends. Age is just a number. I don't really like my wife. And I was like, that's disgusting. So I got to the point where I got really uncomfortable. I ran away and I went to go tell Jazzy's mom what her husband was telling me. So I go tell her, right? This is the best part. So I go to tell Jazzy's mom and she's like, thank you for telling me. I'm gonna take care of it. Here's this water, drink it. Like, you're probably so overwhelmed right now. So I remember I drank the water and I felt dizzy.
So he gets up and goes to open the door. She barges in. She's screaming from the top of her lungs. I mean, she's irate at the moment. She's like, who are you with? You're cheating on me. Why are you here? He's like, babe, I'm getting a wax. Look. So he shows her his partial waxed body. She looks at me and pretty much comes at me, but he holds her back. And I'm like, guys, you have to take this outside of my house. This is insane. I'm like, listen, girl, I'm just his waxer. Nothing is going on here. She's calling me every name in the book. I mean, she's going crazy. So he shows her our texts, and it's all professional. Him booking an appointment and me showing him before and after pics from previous times. Guess this was a new relationship and she was already acting like a psycho. She followed him to my house. So I kicked them both out. Let's just say they did not last because this girl was cuckoo in the head.
Wow.